Talk about a crazy day. We've got wild stories plus your questions. So let's get started.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Hey folks, welcome to the Free for All Friday here in Mom's Kitchen. You bet, folks, it is the Free for All Friday. It's been one hell of an SHTF week. They have ridden us up and down, left and right, tried throwing us like bucking Broncos, but we're preppers and we're staying on the back of this bad dog, figuring out which way it's turning, wiggling, and taking us. Doesn't mean we're going to enjoy it. Doesn't mean we're not going to get our butts and balls knocked all over the place while riding this bull. But folks, it is a free-for-all, and that's what it's all about. Today is your chance to get questions in. And, we've got something new going on. YouTube, something they did like 10 years ago. You know, instead of the super chat button, at any time during any program, whether it's live or recorded, you can hit the thank you button and make a contribution that way. So it's not just the super chats live button. Now it's the thank you button. Anyways, one more way that I think YouTube is having to turn their ship around, because you may not have realized that you may have missed the news headline, but they had a horrible start to this year. They have hurt so many conservative channels and reduced advertising that they're now hurting themselves. So they're doing all they can, folks, to get people to come on board, to start looking at YouTube again. Interesting thing, I wonder if they're going to take their foot off of our neck. That's our collective Prepared Mind network neck. I wonder if they're going to allow us to grow some more, while at the same time, maybe they'll even allow us a little bit of funding. We're going to find out, folks. But speaking of someone and their foot on our neck, well, the most popular president of all time, 81 million people voted for the class clown, Joe Biden. He arrived in Cincinnati today, folks, to the sound of crickets. No fanfare, no one showed up, no one gave a shit. Isn't that just perfect? That's how unloved this guy is. Now, it is Free for All Friday, so get your questions in, and I'm going to tell Jolene at various points, hey, who's got a question? And then she's going to bomb me with one of you guys. But we want to sprinkle it back and forth, machine gun style. Let's get through this. I've got a list a mile long of crap that has been going haywire all week, folks, all week long. I want to kind of start, though, in this other section with the Georgia mother who had her 3 children in the back seat of her car, was cut off by another driver, followed that person 15 freaking miles, caught up to her, pulled a gun, shot her in the face, and then decided to go get her nails done. Number one, I won't be getting anywhere near the state of Georgia anytime soon. Number two, you got to see what your priorities are. Children, never mind. Revenge for some petty BS, a must. Getting nails done, oh, you bet. Unfreaking believable. And now, oh yeah, we've got more, folks. Twitter has been asking their employees this week, just show up to work. Please come back to work, right? Because Musk told reporters this week at a big gala in Manhattan that, quote, if anyone doesn't feel comfortable with his takeover, then they can leave the company, he said, quote, on their own accord and go somewhere else, adding, it's a free country. And I thought that was just brilliant, folks. The world's richest man has routinely expressed no confidence in Twitter's current management, and he's going to be cutting their management, including, I guess, the head of censorship there, Victoria Gatti or Gatti, whatever the hell her name is. She makes $17 million last year. $17 million to talk about how people should be censored and the best way to go about doing it. Yeah, that's the kind of company I want to be part of. Unbelievable. This week, folks, right? It's just been outstanding. Out freaking standing. Right? Where do we want to go next? Oh my gosh. Let's just go with this, right? The pro-abortion activists have ended the week announcing plans to storm Catholic churches and interrupt Mass on Mother's Day. Isn't that just fabulous? These people are full of love and care, kindness and goodness, right? They say cute things like, I don't even want to repeat some of the sick, filthy things they say now. It's really not about abortion or women's health or something. It's completely about debauchery. That's really what these people are about. But I might recommend taking your self-defense items to church, because I'm expecting that these wackos are serious about it. Serious. I mean, they would love the media to see them giving churches a hard time. You know, people going to church, it's typically church is typically a place that's for prayer and reflection, spiritual thinking. You know, it's not a place for political statements, because this isn't a church issue. It really isn't a church issue. It's a secular issue. We are not a theocracy, but these people don't care, folks. Remember, their idea is burn, burn, and burn. The same way they attacked businesses and private individuals during the 2020 summer of mostly peaceful protest and love. They didn't care. Everyone got punished. That's how these people are, folks. They're just not good. I mean, they're really not good. Where do we go? Where do you go? This is an important one, folks. Joe Biden is close to the point of no return with Americans regarding his presidency.
Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
Yeah, that's where he really wants to focus, right? Yep. After, folks, we are exactly 6 months away from the election, and the Democrat globalist economy and plan is in full swing. The lies, folks, the lies that is Trump, extremist parents, right-wing conspirators, COVID fallout, and ultimately everything is Russia, Russia, Russia. They're all excuses, and the American people have rejected them all. Biden claiming, that these MAGA people are the most extreme ever in America. Really, huh? More extreme than the KKK lynching free blacks. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't think the radical right wing that they're so afraid of has done that at all. Right? The polls show Democrats losing their power as Americans are damaged by Biden's energy policy, his monetary policy, his food policy, his border policy. Americans are sick of it. And their support of Biden has fallen. If it ever existed, whatever little bits he had, it's evaporated, gone, right? The coming election, folks, will be watched more closely than ever. And the Demo 3-crats will do their dirty work harder. The mainstream media will hide the truth harder. If we even have an election, right? We have to be ready for the worst, folks. We have to be ready for the worst. All right, let's see what you guys want to talk about. What's on your head? What's in your thoughts? What's in your mind? It is Friday free for all. And we got Bonnie Blue. She says, the depletion of our armaments, our oil, our food processors, all by design. Yeah, they've taken a swat at us all. And the depletion of our armaments, sending $85 billion worth of equipment over to Afghanistan, and rather than bringing $85 billion of it home. We left it. And I don't think that 85 billion counts all of the contractor work that was done in Afghanistan. The concrete for runways, the building materials, the electrical, everything that's over there. We just left it, right? Our oil. We've covered that a little this week. Biden, right? What does this guy think he's doing? It's incredible. And we did cover it earlier in the week, and it bears repeating that he this week is going to start buying oil to refill the strategic reserve. Refill the strategic reserve. Really? So first, he causes prices to go up by reducing our oil supply. Then he begs Venezuela, Iran, Saudi Arabia, in fact, all of the Middle East, and everyone told him no more oil for you, nothing extra. So then he says, we're going to release the oil reserves. And instead of it going into our fuel tanks, which, by the way, are lower than ever, and there's about to be a diesel fuel crisis on the east coast of the United States. Glad I live in the South. There's going to be a diesel fuel crisis. Don't worry, we're all going to get to experience higher fuel costs because Biden didn't send our oil into our refineries. No, he sent it in ships and sent it overseas. The big guy might get his 10%. What do you think? What are the odds? Because it didn't help us. And now in order to restore, to refill that strategic oil reserve, guess what? He's going to compete with the rest of the country on the open market. Right? The government, the U.S. government, it's going to have to compete and buy the oil on the open market. It's going to pay way, way, way more money and create more shortage. Right? This is what absolutely kills me. They sold that oil. Who made money off of that? Who did it benefit? It wasn't us. Unbelievable. Food processing, yet we've had numerous attacks on small food plants. We've had cerveza bug shut down major food plants like Smithfield, Tyson. And speaking of Tyson and chicken, we've had all these chickens. All of a sudden, bird flu in America means we need to kill billions of chickens. Absolutely incredible. Meanwhile, not just food processing, but food production, including farming and agriculture, all the way through the production process to getting it into your freezer or refrigerator, right? Because of the fighting with Russia, we're going to have less fertilizer for crops. Oh yeah, that's going to help us tremendously. Thanks, Biden. Right? We need to have those Biden stickers in grocery stores. We need to have them at the gas pump, the diesel pump. We need to have Biden stickers on billboards. They need to be put on people's windshields, not sticky side down. Don't do anything illegal or mean, folks. Use that glue-free stick-em stuff, like those Post-it notes. Unbelievable. Unbelievable what is happening in our country. All right. I want to get into this. These morons in D.C. and their cohorts in England, NATO, the European Union, they're going to get us all killed. At the very least, they're going to get our militaries killed. The Biden regime, folks, is claiming it helped Ukraine sink the Russian ship, the Moskva. Or is that Moskva? I think it's the Moskva. Then, right, the U.S. government decided they would leak it to the liberal media lapdogs they have, right? So U.S. intelligence, I guess that's the Pentagon. I don't see a lot of intelligence there, but that's what they call themselves. The U.S. intelligence, under the direction of Joe Biden's people, say they helped Ukraine sink the British flag ship, the Moskva, in the Black Sea. Then they leaked the news to the New York Times and NBC News, who dutifully reported. NBC News folks reported that it was U.S. intelligence behind the sinking. And the only way, folks, this doesn't make Putin and Russia respond in kind is if it's a total lie. If it's all bullshit and fabrication for propaganda purposes, right? The Pentagon and Biden folks would lie to get a free sandwich. So why wouldn't we be surprised, right? Or so why would we be surprised they would try and take credit for this incident. Right? It's kind of like a building blowing up and Al Qaeda going, yeah, we did that, making sure everyone, no one else has raised their hand. Let's take credit for it so we can scare people. Essentially, this is war propaganda terrorism. Even still, even if it's just propaganda and Putin knows it, right? It's a slap to his face. So even still, could Putin retaliate since the U.S. wants to pretend they are all macho and capable of doing such a thing? The answer there is yes, and he could. We will get to wait and see, folks. That's our job. Wait and see. The morons in DC keep pushing their luck, folks, and the mainstream media is all too eager to help. How about when their children and their families are destroyed and their wealth is taken from them, they may regret being the a-holes that they are. I don't wish, pain and death on anyone, but if anyone deserves it, it is these fools. And it's not just the U.S. intelligence, folks. You've got MI6, you've got Mossad, you've got all sorts of secret service government agencies spread all over Europe. They're all participating in this. The British SAS are helping U.S. troops train the Ukraine fighters. And I don't think it's to win. I really don't think this is for the win. I've thought about this long and hard, and it smells like to me that they want a protracted war for Russia. Much like another Afghanistan, or rather a Vietnam, since we're most familiar with how Vietnam just cost money, cost lives, and really didn't accomplish much. I don't even want to talk about Russia's Afghanistan or the U.S.'s Afghanistan, but it would seem to me that this is exactly what they want. They want to use Ukraine as the proxy army to try and wear down Russia, to help reduce their armament, to reduce their, shall we say, military. I don't think it's going to have the effect they want, though. Yeah, it's going to cost them money. It's going to cost them lives. But Russia has everything at stake here. They consider this an existential threat, having NATO right on their border with nuclear weapons aimed at Moscow. And that is why Russia has been saying as of late, they've been more than just hinting that there could be nuclear, preemptive nuclear strikes even. But I think the idea is to keep Putin center stage for everyone in the world to see as the villain, the bad guy. Right? He's the new Hitler, the new super devil. And if they can keep him in that limelight, everything that happens, they can blame on him. I mean, instantly Biden came out and blamed Putin for high fuel prices, even though there's been an energy crisis in Europe and then America that's been happening for some time. They want to blame Putin for food prices by saying, see, he took away not only the oil and the gas, but the fertilizer. It's like, well, wait a minute, this guy's starting to sound pretty important. Putin has the gas, Putin has the oil, Putin has the coal, Putin has the uranium, Putin has the fertilizer, Putin has enormous crops of grains. That's wheat, bread, flour, food. That's the other thing is food. The food shortages that are coming, they're going to blame Putin for all of these problems. Higher energy costs. Well, we got to get off the Putin energy then and get that green energy. It's going to cost a lot of money. That infrastructure that they're talking about being needed is not built. Well, we can build it. We're America. We're great. You bet we are. But hey, who's going to pay for this? Well, I guess we'll just have to borrow money from the banks. Well, what money are we going to borrow? The banks don't have any wealth. All they have is debt. They own, I don't know, what, 30 trillion, 40 trillion, $50 trillion in U.S. government debt. We don't even get those numbers anymore, folks. They aren't reliable or trustworthy. The amount of money these people just keep pumping into the stock market, pumping out in cash, giving away overseas, spending on all the projects they love while, regular Americans languish. Well, maybe they'll do something, right? Something good and maybe improve the infrastructure of this country. You want to electrify the world? We're going to need a lot more energy. And if we can't use gas, oil, coal. There's not enough sun and wind. They've proven it. You know, unless we all want to run around on bicycles, right? It's incredible. Yeah, we're going to need a lot of nuclear power, folks. And nuclear power plants are incredibly expensive. You know, even the SMRs, the small modular reactors, I've been researching this a bit lately. They're much cheaper because they're factory made, modular style. The safety standards are way higher and the safety designs are way more efficient and inexpensive to build. Still, it's going to cost billions and billions and billions and billions, and it's going to take years and years and years. Meanwhile, we're just going to blame Putin for everything. And if we're lucky, folks, they won't drag us into World War III. Let's see what you want to talk about, Jolene. Who do we got up next? We've got PNW Prepper. And he says, I have seen new videos on BitChute about the January 6th shooting of Ashley B being a psyop. Thoughts? I, too, have seen the shootings of Ashley as fake. I've seen the evidence that demonstrates it was a faked scene, much like the Boston bombing faked scenes. The question is, who does this serve? Right? Who benefits? Key bono. Who benefits from this? Right? It's been a war cry. It's been a war cry of the political right, the patriots, to say Ashley was killed. And it was done for no reason since the footage leaked out that the Capitol Police allowed protesters in. They opened the doors, unlocked the doors, invited them in, welcomed them, took pictures with them, posed, high-fived, guided them, etc., etc. Kind of blew their story that this was a violent insurrection. I think the plan, folks, was to either fake someone's death or actually shoot someone, and it happened. The whole story behind her shooting and who did it and why is he protected? Why is he not charged with death? Right? There should at least be a hearing, and it's public. This is public knowledge. This isn't Secret Service stuff, you know, the national security. It's one person shooting one protester and killing her. Or was it faked? And since no death really occurred, there's no reason to expose the person who did the fake shooting. And I've watched it all. Either way, it makes the whole event look and smell really, really bad. If it was a fake shooting and a psyop, then, right, what did they gain from it? They didn't gain a whole lot. In fact, it was filmed by John Sullivan, the BLM Antifa protester, who admitted on film while recording everything, all of the crimes he was committing. He finally got arrested in trouble, right? Whoops, we got to drag this guy, you know, and throw him under the bus, if you will. You know, someone's got to be the fall guy, the patsy to take some heat. But there's just this entire January 6th incident is still being used by Congress. They're still trying to dig up evidence. And this week they had on the January 6th insurrection hearing, they had Rudy Giuliani as a witness. Now, Rudy Giuliani being the president's legal advisor at that time, you would think he would be the number two man. He would be the Rudolph Hess to Herr Trump. And that they would just arrest him. You know, Rudy, you probably organized all this. You're a sneaky lawyer, you know. Well, they didn't. And in fact, Rudy said, I want this televised. I want this to be live. I want the American people to see and hear what I have to say to you guys. And this committee is holding closed doors, no public hearings, trying to dig little pieces of information. They've absolutely failed. Absolutely failed. January 6th, folks, wasn't in 2022. You know, it's May the 6th, 2022. So it wasn't 4 months ago, folks. It was a year. It was a year and 5 months ago. Nope. Yes, a year and 5 months ago. Not 5 months ago, but a year and 5 months ago. And they still don't have any information, any evidence, any proof that there was an insurrection. The world sucks right now. It's a big sucking sound. And you want to hear some more suckage? George W. Bush, former President George W. Bush, had something to say today. He called President Zelensky Voldemort. He called him, quote, the Winston Churchill of our time. Winston Churchill, if he could move, would be spinning in his grave. The Winston Churchill of his time. Folks, this is all about getting dollars and power for the super rich and the super powerful. George W. Bush, folks, is actually famous for putting his trust in Putin. Did you know that? This is what he had to say about Putin. George W. Bush about Putin. He says, I looked the man in the eye. I found him to be very straightforward and trustworthy, and we had a very good dialogue. I was able to get a sense of his soul. Wow, those are pretty powerful words coming from the former president of the United States back when he was president. So now Bush no longer needs Putin to be where Putin's at. Now Bush needs Voldemort to be in power, to play the victim. So Bush held a video call on Thursday. And during the call, Bush called the Ukrainian president the Winston Churchill of our time. He called a skinny jean wearing, rainbow toting, frisky fruitcake of an actor who is now playing leader of a country, installed after a coup d'etat with the assistance of the CIA and other special forces. That's how he got into power. He is not, folks. He's not there as the result of elections and a free people. No, Ukraine. And I know people, folks, one very well, who's dealt with Ukraine and the former Eastern Bloc nations. And Ukraine is basically a plundering ground for the rich. They do things there. They build, they manufacture, they provide jobs for the people there, but it's mostly about the rich plundering. And it is only slightly worse than countries like our own, where the uber rich are screwing the rest of us over. I mean, let's see, this week, just Thursday, the Dow Jones dropped precipitously like a bucket of shit, 1,300 points. Nobody was spared. Everyone in the stock market lost their ass. And that's just not where the bankers are. There are private citizens, government employees, investors, heiresses, heirs to thrones, heirs to wealth, who just have their money in the stock market. And can you imagine, folks? Can you imagine taking, because it dropped 3%. 3%. Well, 3% of my bank account ain't shit. 3% of trillions of dollars, folks, is hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, disappeared. Now, here's the thing. When the stock market goes down, that money just doesn't fucking evaporate. It doesn't just evaporate. Somebody sold at the top and it falls to the bottom. The cash value is sitting in bank accounts. Numbered bank accounts with those billions and maybe trillions of dollars sitting in them in cash. While everyone else gets their ass kicked. They're losing value. So they end up having to sell, where they get their ass handed to them and their retirement's toast, depending on what stocks they're in, what portfolios. But everyone lost, folks. Everybody lost. And then guess what? Well, we lost and then ended up right about even today. But for a while, it was looking like it was going there again. People panicking. And then guess what? The rich banks come right back in and they sold here and then they buy 3% lower. Hey, look at that. They just got a discount. What a terrific bunch of guys. That's what we got, folks. Yeah, they screw everyone over. They screw over Ukrainian people. The Chinese people get screwed over and we get screwed over. Unbelievable. What do you guys want to talk about? Jolene, who has something for me? We're at the halfway point in the show, and we've got Cottage Farm says, what if this was a sick bet between two trillionaires? One says, I'll bet I can get the peasants to eat bugs and stay in their homes. And the other says, I think people are too smart. We're going to bet $1. This is the premise of the story of the movie Trading Places, filmed back in the 80s with two billionaires at the time. But for today, we'll have to go with billionaires, right? Two billionaire brothers, Rudolph and Mortimer Duke. They had a bet, $1, that they could take Lewis Winthorpe III, their CEO, and ruin him, and he would turn to crime, and they could take just a nobody off the street, a loser, a criminal, a bad guy, and turn him into a successful human being. And that man was played by Eddie Murphy. It's a fantastic movie. I love the movie Trading Places. And of course, it was Dan Aykroyd who played the hapless, too clean CEO. And yeah, they traded places, and then yeah, it was for $1. They ruined a man's life for $1, for a bet. It almost feels that this is the type of flippant decision making that goes on with the super rich. Right? They're like, yeah, I bet, we got a thing with protein and meat, and we've got cow flatulence is bad. So we've got to do something about the cow flatulence. So let's see if we can get people to eat bugs. Now, the reason I say this is completely everything else. Anyways, thank you, Cottage Farm. Thank you to everybody. Get this. You've got 1 million acres of pasture land, and it's got beautiful green grass just kind of wiggling and blowing in the wind, right? It's just all that grass is just blowing as the wind blows across the prairies. And if cows eat that grass, it gets turned into methane and carbon dioxide, evil stuff, right? Emissions, greenhouse gases. The only reason that happens, folks, is because the grass gets in the cow's mouth and goes through its digestive system, gets broken down into its constituent components, right? The cow gets some energy out of that, some protein out of that. Cow gets fat, we eat it. Yum, yum. Now, let's assume there's no cows in those pastures. Millions of acres of blowing grass. It's green, it's pretty. Well, then summer comes, it turns brown. It starts degrading. What do you think is happening to that grass? It is much more slowly than in a cow's stomach, doing exactly the same thing the cow did. It's releasing its energy. It's releasing carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. It's releasing hydrocarbons known as methane. And then winter comes, and it rains on all that grass that's fallen over, and that grass rots and continues to rot. And it's being digested, folks, by little bugs, little bacteria and fungus. And they chew up what's left of the grass and emit more carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, more methane, more hydrocarbons, more carbon emission. It's the Kuma Matata. It's the circle of life. Whether a cow eats the grass or nobody eats the grass, the same amount of methane is produced, the same amount of carbon is produced, the same amount of carbon dioxide is released. You could at least make the argument, and I think this is a good argument to make, that the cow, well, yeah, one, produces meat. Hello. Two, all that energy it takes to make a cow is locked up in the value of the meat energy, right? Energy to us is food, it's meat, it's fuel. So if you're getting all those cows to make meat, that I think actually reduces carbon dioxide and methane emissions. The people out there, folks, that are pushing these lies are doing so because people are ignorant of how things actually work. Plants need carbon dioxide. Plants turn carbon dioxide into bush, leaves, right? Unbelievable. So basically, it's food and fertilizer for plants, airborne. Without carbon dioxide in the air, what will the trees eat? Right? Unbelievable. In fact, I think I'm not a biologist. I'm not an arborist. I'm not a plantologist, but I read a report somewhere that they grew vegetables. They grew plants in a scientific greenhouse environment. And they artificially increased the carbon dioxide level multiple times that which is found in our common atmosphere. They raised the greenhouse gases higher, and guess what? The plants thrived even more. Yep. But we can't tell the people that. We got to say carbon bad, carbon bad. Maybe if the carbon dioxide level gets high enough, trees will go bigger, stronger, faster. You know, maybe we'll have trees that grow a mile high again if we get enough carbon out there for them. I wonder if that's what they're afraid of. Anyways, folks, they're a bunch of wackos. And speaking of wackos, we've got Senator Chuck Schumer. And he announced that the Senate will vote next week to codify. They're going to pass an abortion rights bill in the Senate. Well, at least they're going to vote on it. And it could make abortion up to the day of birth legal and a federal law. Now, this is fascinating. Thank you, Chuck Schumer. Democrats, folks, are telling us, proving it, that they're the party of death. It is no longer questionable. It's no longer up for debate. It can't be argued. They're about death. I mean, let's think about this, though. How many Democrat senators will sign their own campaign death sentence by joining in this with the Democrats like Schumer? They're all just going to join together like some disgusting blob of flesh, right? They're all gonna secure their own death that way by joining the likes of Schumer. See, he's secure. He lives in a district, in a state that will elect him no matter what he says. So he has no worry. But there's a lot of states, folks, where senators live, where the people are being hurt. They've had enough. They're tired of the lies, same as you and me, right? So I invite this effort by Schumer to try and pass this law. And frankly, I think the law would be ruled unconstitutional, because how can the government sanction murder? That is anathema. It is the opposite of what government is supposed to do, which is supposed to protect people from being murdered. So I invite this effort by Schumer and other idiot Democrats. The people need to hear how these radical scum think, right? They are the avowed enemies of life and the enemies of the United States of America. I want them to prove it, right? Any legislation they come up with, folks, will be tied up in debates and in committees anyways. And the same with the House of Representatives, because they'll have to come up with their own version of it, and then they'll bring the Senate version and the House version together in conference committee and hash out the differences, and then take them back to the House and back to the Senate to vote to see if they'll agree to the changes. You know, because it's got to be one unified law that everybody agrees to, and then it can go to the president. Right? By then, we will have our answer from the Supreme Court well before they even get close to this. Right now, it's a political campaign game that they're playing, right? So legislation is going to be tied up in debates and committees, but the House of Representatives, folks, even more of them than senators, are going to lose their elections for supporting this evil effort, right? And here's what kills me is the Democrats think this is a winning strategy, folks, demonstrating how bankrupt their party is, their entire campaign in 2022. And the record of achievement is crap. Higher oil, higher gas, higher energy, less fuel, higher food, everything, inflation through the roof. That's their achievements. Leaving the border open in the South. Beautiful, brilliant, right? So I say bring on the rhetoric, bring on the infighting in DC. And guess what, folks? There's even going to be some violence for America just in time for the elections. So be sure and bring your ink pen so you can write. Yeah, we all have to be well aware, folks, of what's going on. What do you want to talk about now, though? What's on your mind? Jolene, who do we have next We've got Old Man River, Deep River. He says, when they pack the courts, will this country even survive? Can we win a second revolution? Woo! Talk about a loaded question. When they pack the courts, will this country even survive? What he means by pack the courts is this week they said, oh, we can't believe this. This was a shifty, bug-eyed bung man out of California representative came out and said, oh, the Republican or the conservative justices lied to the Senate. This is horrible. They lied to the American people. So we need to fix this. And the only way we can fix this is by packing the court. And that was really dramatic paraphrasing on my part. Yeah, they're going to use that as their excuse. And if they can do it, folks, if they can get away with it, you ask, will this country even survive? If that happens, Old Man River, it won't be the United States of America. It'll be even worse off than it is now. It'll be even more radicalized. It will become an even more dangerous fascist super state in Washington, D.C. And it would cause what I would call a partisan conflict. Some would call it a civil war. Some might call it another American Revolution, because it would be a revolting situation. It really would. Now, I am not suggesting or implying or recommending or wishing for violence or dangerous behavior or anything harmful at all. I'm just merely looking and seeing what is out there. This is what they're asking for, and we know what the promise is. All right? This is what they're asking for. I don't think we could lose the revolution, Old Man River. I think that we would have no choice but to win it. You see, if a bunch of backwards ass, candy ass Ukrainians can fight Russia, I don't know why millions of American patriots. See, there's not, the army in Ukraine isn't that big. The army here in the United States of America is comprised of every man who's capable of holding a rifle, and any woman who cares to join them. And a lot of us have been trained, and a lot of us have been educated. Right? And we're not Ukraine, folks. Ukraine is a country full of people that have lived their whole lives being oppressed. So what's the difference to a Ukrainian who is being oppressed by a Russian rather than his own government? What's the difference to a Ukrainian, whether it's Putin or Biden benefiting from his slave labor? The fact that they may hate Russia, some of, or most of, or many of Ukraine. You know, some of them may legitimately hate Russia. And remember, when the Soviet Union, not Russia, the Soviet Union, the communist empire, did the Holodomor, mass starvation to Ukraine back in the 1930s, I think 32, 33. They know, folks, that country's felt pain. They haven't been free forever. Forever. It is hard in Eastern Europe. It is hard in Russia just to live. So they've lived oppressed lives. It's not like they're losing their freedom right now. That is a myth. It is a fantasy. It is a fabrication. Here in America, you and I, if you're over the age of 50 for certain, probably over the age of 40, you know what freedom is and what it should be. You know what the Constitution is, and you believed and have lived your life believing America is the land of the free and the home of the brave. People 40 years and younger probably have less of an idea what that's all about. But they still teach a little bit of that stuff. And folks, once you have tasted real freedom, or once you have tasted real oppression, right, you never forget either. Just think about that for a little bit. Thank you, Old Man River. Semper Fi to everyone. Remember, up here, we've got our address. Share that address, right? If you're on YouTube, share these videos. If you wish, support us by hitting that thank you button. And then I will see you Sunday Night Live. It's going to be Mother's Day, and I'm going to have a special Mother's Day episode. You're going to love it. Mother's Day, same time, same bat channel, same Prepared Mind channel. I'll be sending out invites and notifications. If you're not subscribed, be sure you're subscribed on YouTube. And if you're on Patreon, thank you very, very much for that. It's $2 a month, 7 cents a day. I mean, some of you contribute more, and that is absolutely fantastic, and we love you for it. You support all the work that we do here. We need all the help we can get. Trust me. Anyone who knows me, they're like, you need some help, buddy. Anyways, let's move on and let's see something like this. Oh, this topic is absolutely fantastic. Elon Musk, folks. Elon Musk, the guy who makes green cars so a bunch of left-leaning, virtue-signaling, mocha latte-sipping pansies can brag to everybody how they're saving the earth because they're driving an EV, a Tesla. That's right. Elon Musk makes the Tesla. So he's helped all of these people feel good about themselves because, well, cars made in other countries, you know, where the mining, where they do the filthy mining and, you know, they create the filthy batteries and then they burn the filthy coal to make the energy to charge the batteries. But, you know, when they plug it in at home, it doesn't make any noise. And when it goes down the street, it goes, yeah, like that. Doesn't make any noise. Now, I know it's more efficient than gasoline. I thought about that long and hard. It's more efficient, electric vehicles, because they're made lighter, because they're not creating a bunch of heat. The heat from combustion, the internal combustion engine, that's a lot of the energy, the BTUs, and it just gets lost as heat. It doesn't get used as working energy. But, you know, that's how that shit goes. So, Elon Musk, kind of the darling of these leftists, is now their most hated villain, right? You know, they've attacked him now. And if you mess with the South African bull, you're going to get the American horns this guy has grown. Right? He's been here a while. He understands America now. He's got some ideas of what free speech is. And while he's not as radical as I am, which, you know, I say you ought to be able to say whatever the fuck you want, anytime, anywhere, to any person. Yeah, I think you should be able to call a spade, and a Tootsie Roll, and a Fruit Loop, and some Lucky Charms. And you ought to be able to call, you know, I don't know, white person, anything you want. I don't give a shit. But I'm tired of the hypocrisy. Anyways, Elon Musk is now realizing how kooky, deranged, and dangerous the leftists are. He is being attacked for daring to allow free speech, right? Because he is saying he wants free speech on Twitter, and then he bought Twitter. And he's been trolling these lefties the whole way, and they're attacking him, folks. Elon's efforts have exposed just how afraid these liberal maggots are. Right? They're afraid of the voices of freedom speaking what they wish. They're afraid of alternative ideas to their agenda-driven lies. AKA, truth is a very scary thing to these people because they're living the lie, folks. And now that Elon is being attacked, he is feeling the pain. But he has a voice, folks, and he isn't afraid to use it. And I think we should all take heart in that, and we should all emulate speaking freely. Elon Musk is exposing the money behind the censorship now, folks, and that is great. He's exposing the George Soros groups, the NGOs. He's exposing them all. The fight over the First Amendment, folks, it is on. The fight against political correctness and its lies is on. The fight over the social credit score system, it's on. The fight against corporate social attacks is on. And that's corporate attacks against you and me. Right? The fight against the super wealthy Western oligarchs, George Soros, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Hillary, et cetera, it is on. He's naming names. The fight against the father of lies is on. If we are allowed to speak, we can fight them, folks. Musk, an oligarch himself, doesn't like being told to shut up or that his ideas are wrong and he must shut up, therefore. His own sense of righteousness based on his success has caused this to happen, folks. And we, the people, may benefit from it. A lot of people have said Elon Musk is a megalomaniac. He's an egomaniac, right? Well, he's not hurting me as long as he's not forcing me to do anything, not forcing me to take a chip in my brain or my hand or anything else, right? If he tries that, we'll have some words with him then. For the time being, for the moment, he's on our side, making the battle more public, and that is great. Support the effort, folks. Fight back against Democrat scum and their masters. And remember, Biden isn't the master. Biden is merely a puppet. All right, let's see what you guys want to talk about. We're into the last 10 minutes of the show on Free for All Friday, and we've got Jay Sullivan. He says, what makes anyone think for 1 minute this hack of an election system can deliver us from this evil? Not with mail-in candidates and this corrupt election system. The social contract is broken, in my opinion. We are on the verge of world war with these idiots in power. Our country is under attack from within and without. I agree with you. We are in a war domestic and a war foreign, with enemies domestic and enemies foreign. And in many cases, the same enemies are fighting against us in all battles. The social contract. See, the government would say it's a legal contract. It's a legal contract. They are the sovereigns and we are the subjects. We're the citizens. We are subservient to government. That's their belief system. And they would say that we are contractually obligated to obey them. And they will send the police to your house to beat the ever-loving snot out of you, handcuff you, drag you before court, and use you to scare other people into submission. That's more than a social contract, folks. That is tyranny. That is ungodly, unlawful use of force, coercion, duress, and everything else. But that's what they're doing. It ceased being a social contract in all truth back prior to the Civil War, when people believed that the Union was a good thing until it wasn't a good thing, and then they could leave. They could secede, just like you can leave a marriage if you're being abused by your spouse. If your spouse is cheating on you for whatever reason, you can just leave. They're now saying, nope, sorry. It's an involuntary contract. It is no longer a social contract or an agreement. It is a demand by the government that you obey. And they look to the Constitution, not to find your rights, your protections, and their limitations, but to find areas where they can say everyone must acquiesce to our power because it is written here that we have said power. But if you read those documents, it says we the people. We the people. And it doesn't say anything about the perpetuity of the contract or the lack of dissolution. There is no penalty clause in the Constitution, which upsets me. And I think that if we have a second American, third American, fourth American Revolution, I think there should be a penalty for the government not doing its job, right? You have to have accountability. Someone has to be held responsible. So if someone's job, say, is securing the border and they don't do it, you have a very quick trial. You present the evidence. And if that person has failed to do their job, they are removed from office. Now, let me put it this way. Let's just say President Trump is in office and the border is being attacked by foreigners trying to get in, and they're climbing over the walls and climbing through the rivers, and the Border Patrol is down there stopping all they can and throwing them back and using cattle prods and trying to keep them in Mexico, and some are still squirting through. You could say the president is trying. He's building a wall. He's got people down there. He's doing the very best he can. So he isn't committing malfeasance of office. He's not derelict in his duties. Therefore, he hasn't violated his oath. But you take someone like Joe Biden and you look at what he hasn't done, right? They stopped the border wall construction. They removed the personnel on the border. They quit enforcing the law and trying to stop them, and they are allowing in 250,000 people a month or more. He has said that he wants the border open. They want to allow these illegals, folks. That means they're criminals in here. They're not going through the proper legal channels to gain entrance and citizenship. Hey, they don't have to be citizens. They can at least get a freaking green card or a travel visa. Nope, just let them on in. Give them lots of money. See, that's the difference, right? He is acting not just irresponsibly, but intentionally to harm the country. If we had a real operating, working government, they would have impeached him many times over, and not just for the border situation. We've got big trouble. We have enemies within and without. What are we going to do, folks? Right? I've had enough of you. What are you going to do? What can we do? Right? It's incredible, folks. We've got all kinds of trouble. It's not just the government. It's everything. We got Opie Waddell checking in. Let's see what Opie has to say. He says, Richard, why mine crypto when the quantum computers solve equations that would take 11,000 years in a few seconds? What's the point? I don't know who Richard is. I'm John. But Richard is the proper long name for Dick. Anyways, why mine? We'll just pretend like the question is addressed to me. Why mine cryptocurrency when the quantum computers can solve equations like, the idea behind cryptocurrency is that the numerical equation that has to be proven out is so difficult to crack that it takes supercomputers. Well, we now have those supercomputers. So everything can be hacked, folks. It can be hacked using very sophisticated computer algorithms and problem-solving programs, apps, or it can be done with just brute frickin' force. Brute force computers that can just slam its way through every equation known to man and solve everything. And once you find a key, you don't have to slam through the door. You just use the key on the lock and walk through calmly. I don't put a lot of faith. The more I hear about cryptocurrencies and blockchain, it's just another way to try and digitally steal from everyone else. I prefer, if I'm going to have wealth, to have it in a big stack of gold bars, and I can afford 0 stacks of gold bars. But if I had wealth, I would want gold bars like that. You can't crypto steal them from me. You got to come and do it the old-fashioned way. And that means I get to have fun stopping you. Right? We're in this battle, whether it's the government coming after us or private companies. And it's all about control, folks. Let's talk about the private companies and finish up with this, right? I've been learning about companies and the way they're treating people and corporations. We all have, right? With these mandates and these masks and these requirements and all of this environmental governance, environmental social governance, ESG, all of this corporate governance crap. I can't reveal the company or the companies discussed, folks. And I'm 100% certain, though, that they are more of the norm and not the rare exception. I got some information today. During the Cerveza-Bug mandated efforts, major corporations told their subcontractors and business partnerships that they must obey the Biden mandate or lose their business. The corporation CEO, I know, told them to fuck off, politely, but fuck off. And they gave up that business and said, we don't need you. Right? And now another multi-million-dollar manufacturer, I know, has been threatened by a multi-billion-dollar corporation and told that they must obey their business mandates. The billion-dollar company gets to tell everyone else, obey their mandates having to do with environmental, social governance, and justice, and every other damn thing, or they will be denied business, parts, support, etc. Now understand, folks, that this manufacturer has equipment, sells equipment, manufactures equipment, and has done this with their giant supplier for years, working with them, building stuff, working with one another in a partnership, right? But this big corporation says, we're not going to allow disobedience. You must obey our political wills, our political correctness, our political laws, social governance, corporate governance, disinformation governance board. Everyone thinks they're going to govern us now. Folks, you disobey once. My friend says, disobey once, and if you're only suspected, it can result in the cancellation of parts and support. Now, that parts and that support has been paid for, and that support and everything else that comes with it was promised through prior voluntary agreements as a condition of the sales. Hey, you buy our stuff, we'll take care of you, man. Now it's you buy our stuff, we'll take care of you until we won't, and we'll make up rules as we go, right? The mega corporations are demanding obedience, folks, to all things social justice, racial justice, environmental justice, genital justice. It's everything, folks. Since when do corporations get to govern us, either as individuals or businesses, right? Screw them all. I say cut off these mega corporations and develop our own materials and develop our own support structure. I'm disgusted with this centralized social engineering program, folks, that is parasitic. It's living off of us all and then telling us to behave while it sucks our blood right from our veins. That's what these people are doing. These corporations, these liars, these sycophants, the George Soroses and the Bidens and the Hillarys and the Coca-Colas and the Walmarts and everyone else. Get out of our store unless you wear a mask, right? Buy our junk. It's time to stop giving in to these people. It's time to start telling them, you know what? F you, we're not buying your shit anymore. Where are you in this, folks? Are you ready for this fight, this struggle? Right? I've been fighting social media here with you guys for years now. I think it's since 2018. They've just had their foot on my testicles and another one in my ear, right? Just kicking me constantly. And they're losing, folks, they're losing. And that's the good news for you and me. They're losing their corporations. They're losing business. They're losing money. They're losing power. They're stealing all the wealth they can. They're consuming everything. Commercials you see here, if you see commercials, even if you're on Patreon, you may see commercials. That's because these corporations say they have a right to put advertisement wherever they want. And whether or not I am monetized, they have a right to take that money for themselves. That's how they're now operating. They send me the shit all the time. Hey, by the way, we're changing the rules. We're going to put in commercials anywhere we wish. You can't stop it. And if they demonetize any particular video because they don't like the fact that I said the word fuck, well, guess what? They'll just keep the money for themselves. And they're still losing money now. So yeah, this super chat button up here, this thank you button up here, the PayPal button, that money goes to the Prepared Mind channel. Isn't that fascinating? Your thumbs up, that credits the Prepared Mind channel, not them. So do everything you can to support freedom and liberty. Support one another. Do everything you can to tell these corporations they can go to hell. It's a free-for-all Friday, man. I'm feeling like fist fighting or fucking. And I may just go get a drink. And yes, my mom is not in the room right now. Otherwise, she would be saying, John, you shouldn't talk like that. Don't make me get Roger and Jimmy on you. All right, guys, you be cool. I'll be back Sunday night for Sunday Night Live. We're going to have a good time then because, boy, this weekend, I guarantee it, that the shit is going to keep hitting the fan. And there's going to be some nasty stuff, too. And we'll be talking about it. I'll see you then. Chance favors the Prepared Mind is yours. Godspeed, Semper Fi.
Let everybody know. So Have you any idea how successful
Censorship.
censorship is on TV? Don't know the answer? Successful, isn't it?